Hello Motorrad World fans and welcome to Paddock Talk, talking MotoGP testing from Valencia. It was the first time the new riders and teams got to sample themselves. I just love the Valencia test when those black carbon fiber liveries come out and the riders are all wearing their own individual kits. Just love it, absolutely love it. And in my mind, Paul Espargaro takes the best livery for the Valencia test. Let me know what you think in the comments there. But as I said, it was the first time for the riders to sample their new machines in their new teams, and there were some big names making the switch. One of the most exciting Valencia tests we've had in a while with the changes that have been made. So we'll quickly give you a quick rundown and review of how that test went. Luca Marini on his Muni VR46 Ducati was the fastest rider on the day, a 130.032 there. No real surprises. He was on his GP22 Ducati machine, trying one or two things, but familiar territory there for Luca Marini. Maverick Vinales was in second place on the Aprilia. The king of testing is Maverick Vinales. He really just does have everything sorted when it comes to testing. He's been the test master, the testing world champion for years and years and years now. But it was good to see him up there. My only concern with Maverick is, again, just his personality and his mentality heading into the 2023 season. When I look at the test and the race weekends, you know, a lot of the riders come out and fist pump their crew chiefs and their mechanics before they climb on the bikes. Seem to have really good relationships with their mechanics and that. Doesn't look like Maverick Vinales had that. He didn't really have it at Yamaha. That fizzled out. We all know what happened there. And he doesn't just seem to have this bonding connection with his team members. And, you know, I worry about that a little bit for Maverick Vinales, that he just doesn't, you know, gel enough with the team. When something goes wrong, it's everyone else's fault. It's never his fault. So I worry. We know how fast Maverick Vinales is. We know how fast he can be, especially on that Aprilia. We know how good the Aprilia is. Didn't have the ending to the season that they wanted. Mechanical problems haunted Aleix Espargaro, which put him out of third place in the World Championship at the Valencia race. And then Maverick Vinales also with problems there. So Aprilia need to pick up, I think, with the addition of the two new satellite bikes and Miguel Oliveira in that RNF squad. I think that's only going to benefit the Aprilia team, but they've really got to try and just step it up and carry that momentum that they had early on in the 2022 season and carry it into 2023. And Maverick's got to be a big part of that, and he's got to just, you know, sometimes just throw that victim status away and just be positive and try to be more of a team player in my mind. Marco Bezzecchi, he tried the new GP22 machine for the first time. From what I can tell, he was on one of Pecco Bagnaya's championship winning machines from the race season. He was in third place there, said he felt a lot more stability from the rear end of the bike. So Bezzecchi and Marini are ones to watch out for heading into the 2023 season. Had a brilliant 2022 season. Bezzecchi was Rookie of the Year, obviously, but they're going to look at just progressing even more for 2023, as does the Ducati. So watch out for them. I think they could be big surprises, as they were in 2022, but even more surprises heading into the 2023 season. The biggest surprise of all the new boys in this Valencia test was, to no surprise to me, Miguel Oliveira, RNF Aprilia. I've said all along, I think he's really going to gel with the machine. I think his riding style is going to suit the Aprilia. He's got a very meticulous riding style. You know, when everything's going right, that's what he likes. He likes everything in line. You know, he likes everything set up and to his liking. On the KTM, it was very up and down, left and right. And Brad Binder, you know, kind of made himself into that rider in MotoGP where, you know, well, if it's not set up perfectly, I'm just going to wrestle the thing to how I want it. Miguel's not that kind of rider. He likes it more precise, meticulous, and on point. And the Aprilia, I think, will give him that. It's whether or not RNF can give him that throughout the season, with their lack of experience with Aprilia and an end. I'm sure Aprilia are going to step in there and give a lot of resources to that project, no doubt about it. But yeah, Miguel showed that I think him and Aprilia are going to be a good fit. He was fourth quickest there and, you know, did a really good job. Came out afterwards saying, you know, he couldn't say too much, obviously, because contract obligations with KTM, and he'll only really be able to talk about his first experience on the Aprilia at the beginning of the 2023 season. But what he did have to say was, you know, he felt kind of comfortable. It felt weird. It must have felt weird having, you know, his whole MotoGP career has been on a KTM with Tech 3 and then with the factory team. So to climb onto a new bike pretty much for only a day, it did feel weird, but obviously felt good because the man was able to go fast straight away. And after one day to be fourth fastest, and he wasn't too far off his qualifying time. He was 4th overall, 1:30.3. He was only 0.1 off his qualifying time on the KTM from the race weekend. So that is really, really good, considering he literally just climbed on the bike, went out, did a total of 75 laps, and within that was able to get 2.1 of his qualifying time on the KTM, a bike that he knows inside out. So Miguel Oliveira, I think it's going to be a great season. The biggest question is, can RNF give him the resources and give him enough info and data and translate that into a bike that Miguel Oliveira can work with? I hope they can, and I think Miguel Oliveira, out of all the new riders in the new teams, is going to be the one to watch heading into the 2023 season. Espargaro was 5th fastest on his Aprilia. A couple of updates there to try. Fabio Di Gianantonio in 6th. He was also familiar territory there for him, but good to see him up there in 6th. Hopefully he can take a little bit of confidence from that after, he came out publicly and said that he is feeling a little bit depressed. He doesn't feel motivated. He's not enjoying it as much as before. So hopefully Di Gianantonio can take that as a positive into this winter break, have a good break, and come fresh, ready to fight for the 2023 season. Brad Binder was in 7th place. KTM trying out a new tailpiece, new exhaust system, the new aero, the new fairings and that, and the new chassis that took him to 2nd place in the race on the Valencia Sunday. So looking good there for Brad Binder and KTM. A lot of positives, certainly in the second half of the season. You don't want to spike it up too much, because we've seen this before where KTM go on these highs and then they shoot down and then we think it's all doom and gloom and lost. But there seems to be a lot of positives coming out of KTM, and certainly from Brad Binder's side, with a lot, them pretty much hiring all the top brains from Ducati, bringing over Jack Miller, bringing over a lot of the techs behind the Ducati project for the 2023 season. I think it's going to be a big year for KTM. I think they're going to develop. I think they're going to make a huge step forward with both Brad Binder and Jack Miller. And Brad proving there in 7th fastest in the testing, that it's another good sign. It's another step in the right direction for KTM. We'll get to Jack Miller just now. Jorge Martin in 8th, again trying a couple of new fairing and aero packages on that Ducati, that bottom fairing with the more aero on the side that we've seen Aprilia run for most of the season. Ducati brought that out for this test. Fabio Quartararo in 9th, and this is probably one of the biggest talking points of this test. He came out, tried this new, wider, bigger fairing, looked like a heavy, bulky Yamaha, to be honest, with that new fairing and aero package. But with this new engine that he tried out for the first time at the Misano test and loved it. It was 4 k's an hour faster. Woohoo! Not that same kind of feeling from this Valencia test. Was left disappointed, was left scratching his head as why there was no power gains from this new motor. It felt exactly the same to him. He was able to set the 9th fastest time, but nothing spectacular, nothing what we expected, what Fabio expected and Morbidelli expected from this new Yamaha. So disappointing from Yamaha. Everyone left scratching their heads, and they've got a massive task on their hands to make a machine that's going to compete not only with Ducati, but now with Aprilia, with KTM, with Gas potentially. Yamaha have got the biggest job. It was not the test that they wanted. It was not the test that Fabio wanted heading into the break, trying to be motivated for 2023 after the big kick in the teeth that he got this year, losing his World Championship to Pecco Bagnaia through no fault of his own, very much the fault of Yamaha's, and they've got to make up for it now. And they're 2 bikes less this year. There's only Franco Morbidelli and Fabio Quartararo. Testing, they're talking about bringing in Cal Crutchlow for a couple of wild cards, and he's going to be doing a lot of testing, but very disappointing test with regards to Yamaha, not what they wanted. New Ducati factory boy, Enea Bastianini, he was in 10th. He suffered a crash late on, but didn't seem too fussed with that. He was trying, of course, the new GP22 Ducati for the first time. A couple of updates as well on the 23 bike, and just enjoying life in the factory colors, and finished in 10th place. Can't take too much from that. 54 laps in total, not too much, but very much saving himself for the new year. I think Ducati's biggest headache is going to be coming from managing the expectations of Pecco Bagnaia and Enea Bastianini, managing that deadly duo. I mean, it really is a fantastic pairing, but you've got to manage those talents. You've got to manage those personalities. The 2 Italians wanting to be the lead Italian rider on the leading Italian machine. Enea's already come out saying, I want to take the world title from Enea. I want to beat him. they've got to manage that somehow, Ducati. So it's going to be very interesting. Johan Zarco there in 11th. It's a big year for Zarco if he wants to keep that Pramac Ducati ride for the 2024 season. A lot of riders are going to be, headhunted for that role. And Zarco, he's got to pick up a win now. He hasn't won a MotoGP race yet. Was, again, supposed to do it this year. Had the machine to do it. Martin did it. Pecco Bagnaia won the World Championship. Bezzecchi was impressive on it. Marini, again, was impressive on it. So Zarco has got to pull his socks up and take that next step for 2023. Otherwise, big question mark for the 2024 season. Bagnaia, the champion, with his headache and his hungover headache after the championship party on Sunday night, only really had a day to rest. He was just going through the motions, tried out that new bottom fairing and one or two other updates. He finished in 12th place. Not much to take from this test, though, just a couple of laps in there. He is the world champion. He will go in fresh, will come into the 2023 season fresh, knowing that he is world champion and knowing that Ducati have got a great platform. They are ready to go. If the championship started next week, Ducati are ready to go. The same can't be said for Yamaha and Honda, especially, as I'll get into now. But Bagnaia, he looked a tired rider. He looked like a rider that had been partying long into the night and early mornings of Monday morning. And so, he just went through the motions there in 12th place. Marc Marquez in 13th. Not a test for Honda. They literally threw everything. New aero, new engine, new this, new exhaust, they threw everything at it, and they didn't get the results that they wanted. Again, Marc Marquez coming out and saying, we are nowhere near where we need to be to fight for this championship. There's even been talks after the test that he's come out and, talking about potentially a move to Ducati if things don't go right in 2023, 2024. Could we see a Marc Marquez on a Ducati? Certainly with Alex Marquez and the praise that he's already given Ducati, and depending on what his results will be next year, could we potentially see that happen? I still don't think so. Honda have got to get it right. Look, the Japs have failed miserably here. Yamaha and Honda just don't seem to be getting it right. The Europeans, Ducati, KTM, Aprilia, are getting it right. And, the Japanese need to get out of their comfort zones. They've always kind of played it safe. They've never taken these big risks. They need to now. If they want to keep hold of the likes of Fabio Quartararo, Marc Marquez, and they want to compete against these European bikes, they've got to do something dramatic. They've got to take this big leap. And from this test, it was very, very disappointing from the Japanese. Yamaha and Honda were nowhere near where they needed to be to compete against the European bikes. So, head-scratching moment there for Marc Marquez, the leading Honda in 13th place. And when your lead man comes out of a test and says, not happy, we're not where we need to be, having literally gone up and down, throwing everything but the kitchen sink at it, worrying times there for Honda. Franco Morbidelli in 14th, big season for Franco Morbidelli in 2023. If he doesn't prove himself, you know what, chuck him out. Let's bring Toprak Razgatlioglu in there. Let's bring a couple of other riders back into that, because he just really has failed miserably in that role at the moment. Alex Marquez in 15th, first time trying out the Ducati GP 2022 machine there in Grassini colours. Loved his colour scheme there as well. And he was just smiling. In his debrief, he was smiling. He said the bike feels great. It feels a lot easier to manage compared to the Honda. He was surprised how fast it is, but how easy it was to manage. So he was just a rider that was smiling ear to ear. He was only a quarter of a second shy of his qualifying lap. So that was a really good first outing for Alex Marquez. Very positive. Good to see him smiling, and I think he's going to have a great 2023 season on that Ducati. I think what Ducati have really impressed me about, not only from this test, but from the season, they're able to make a bike that's adaptable to all different riders. Bezzecchi, Marini, Bagnaia, Zarco, Martin, DJ Antonio, all these different personalities and riding styles are able to, adapt to the Ducati, whereas the Yamaha only worked for Fabio, it didn't work for Darren Binder, Dovi, and certainly Franco Morbidelli. The Honda only really worked for Marc Marquez, not for Paul Espargaro, Taka Nakagami, and Alex Marquez. And that is the biggest worry, is Honda and Yamaha don't have these adaptable machines. They're very, rigid and one line. You've got to make it adaptable. And that's where Ducati went with 8 bikes to get all those, use all that information and data from all these different riding styles and make this machine that's adaptable. And that's what KTM are doing now, it seems, with all the, with Paul Espargaro coming with his Honda information and his past experience with KTM, Jack Miller coming with all that Ducati knowledge. It really is going to help to make the KTM a better package and more adaptable for more riders. And that's what you need. Ducati have proven it. Aprilia have done the same. Their package seems to be more adaptable, more, you hop on it and you're able to make it work. Ralph Fernandez proved it in this test as well. We'll get to him just now. But that is the biggest worry from Yamaha and Honda's point of view, is they don't have an adaptable machine. They don't have a machine that works compared to the Ducati that seems a lot more adaptable. So Alex Marquez, one to watch out, no doubt about it. Paul Espargaro seemed the happiest man coming out the test. We saw after a couple of laps on his Gas Tech 3 KTM machine, already hugging the tank, hitting the tank, looking like he loved life after 2 miserable, absolutely miserable years at Repsol Honda. He came out, he was absolutely loving life. He says, I'm in love with it. He feels like it does feel new, but it's got that same DNA that when he was at KTM. He was 0.1 faster than he managed on the Honda all weekend, and he was only 0.2 of a second off his fastest ever time set at Valencia, and that was back in 2020. So very good signs there for Paul Espargaro and this new Tech 3 Gas team, which, like I said, that was the best livery for me by far. But I'm excited to see this new red Gas bike on the grid, even though it is KTM. Nice little fresh approach there. And I was a big one that questioned why Paul Espargaro was signed for that team. I would have preferred to have seen a younger Moto2 rider potentially step in, or a different rider. But Paul Espargaro, 31 years old, still got a lot to prove in MotoGP. Can he do it? Can this be the fresh new start that he needed to kickstart his career? Let's see. Certainly, judging from this test, it's exactly what he needed. Jack Miller was in 17th on the KTM. He said he was very surprised at how well he adapted to the bike, how quickly he adapted to the bike. I don't think the lap times really show how well the test went there for him. Didn't have as many hot lap runs as he would have liked, but a good job there. I think it's going to be a good exercise with Jack Miller bringing his crew chief over as well. They're going to bring a lot of information, a lot of data, a lot of experience to the KTM team to help them take the next step. And I think Jack Miller's going to surprise many. I think there's going to be a little bit of inconsistency with Jack Miller next year. There's going to be races where he shines and races where he struggles. Pretty much, the story of KTM. I think Brad Binder's going to be a lot more consistent in his run. And Jack's just going to add to that project. And year 2, I think Jack Miller's going to go. Although, having said that, if Jack does go out next year and he's just consistently performing, that wouldn't surprise me either. He's a fantastic rider. He proved it this year again. Big loss for Ducati, huge gain for KTM. Excited to see how that goes. Joan Mir was in 18th behind him on the Repsol Honda. Joan Mir couldn't say much contractually, the same with the likes of Jack Miller from this test. But in what he did say, watching his debrief, he looked exhausted. He looked absolutely exhausted. All he spoke about was he's really looking forward to the time off and the break, and to come back into 2023 refreshed and ready to go. But wasn't a brilliant test for him. First time out on the Repsol Honda. He completed 73 laps. A 30.9 was his fastest time there. It was 0.6 off his fastest Suzuki time from the race weekend. But he looked exhausted, and he's going to have to find energy, because there's a big task ahead of him and everyone at Honda to make that Repsol Honda work. But excited to see how he gets on in that Repsol Honda team alongside Marc Marquez. How do they manage that as well? 2 Spaniards, 2 world champions wanting to go at it. Honda have got to manage that, and Puig and Honda haven't been the best at managing riders over the past couple of seasons. So let's see how that works. Taka Nakagami was in 19th. Alex Rins on his LCR debut on the Honda machine as well, switching from Suzuki. Also couldn't say much, but he was 1.2 seconds off his qualifying lap. He was down in 20th place, and he came out, also said, you know what, it's a fresh new start. We've got to wait for next year. We've got a lot more testing and that to do. He managed a total of 91 laps. So putting in the hard work there was Alex Rins, not getting the full just reward there in the lap time department in 20th, but still a lot to come there. Again, a lot of work to do on the Honda. Ralph Fernandez was in 21st place. He looked happy. He was 1.3 seconds off the fastest time, but he was a quarter of a second faster than the time he had managed on the KTM throughout that whole race weekend. So positive signs there for Ralph Fernandez, who also looked like he just wanted to get on to the break after a terrible season with KTM, come back ready to attack the RNF Aprilia. Augusto Fernandez, the second of the Gas Tech 3 riders, his debut on a MotoGP bike, and he actually did really well. Only 1.6 seconds off the fastest time set there by Marini. I think he's going to do really well. I think he's, his size, he's a tall rider. I think he's going to be much more suited to a MotoGP bike, and I was really impressed there with him. He came out smiling again, happy with everything that happened, and I think it's going to be a good season for the rookie of the season. All he has to do is score 1 point, and technically he might be rookie of the season. So not a lot of work there to do for him. But that is the testing that happened. As I said, exciting times. A lot of work for Yamaha to do, a lot of work for Honda to do. Ducati look ready to go. KTM making the steps that they need to make. Aprilia with the 2 extra bikes on the grid for next year in the RNF colors, I think is going to be brilliant for them. They're going to just take another step forward. And pity, no Suzuki's. Very strange to see no Suzuki's on the grid, but that's what it is. So that is the wrap of the 2023 Valencia test. That is a wrap of MotoGP for 2022. Stay tuned to the Motor Rider World Facebook page and YouTube channel. We've got interviews with Simon Crayford, Brad Binder, Darren Binder, and we're going to try and get as many interviews as we possibly can to keep you all entertained over this break until the 2023 season kicks off. Cannot wait.